Okay, let's talk about the 10 secrets of honor. The 10 secrets of honor. I want to share this from a leadership perspective, and maybe you're leading a team, organization, maybe you're a pastor, leader, starting something. You're surrounded by people, you're under people. Honor is necessary in all places. Even if you are the leader, you still have to give honor. Even if you are the leader, you still need to have other people that you are honoring and looking towards to embrace. So here we go, 10 secrets of honor. Here's the first thing that I feel like I've learned in my experience so far. A lot to learn still, lot for me to glean. There'll be more to this list, but what I feel like I've gathered so far. Number one, honor doesn't mean agreement. It does mean alignment. It doesn't have to mean agreement. It does mean alignment. In other words, honor is a choice. Honor is a choice. So if you're going to stay within that situation or scenario, you have to be willing to adjust. Okay? Now you can get up and you can leave and you can walk out. That might be dishonoring. But if you're going to stay within that organization, if you're going to stay on that team, if you're going to stay with those people, you have to be willing to adjust. You can respectfully disagree, but you can get on the same page. So there are tons of examples of our teams being in a meeting where we respectfully, where someone disagrees with me. I do not surround myself with people who agree with me all the time. I wish I had one person who agreed with me. Maybe my ideas are that bad. But you have to surround yourself with people who don't always agree with you, but know how to respectfully disagree and say, here are other options. But at the end of the day, the buck stops with the leader and somebody has to make a decision. Somebody has to make a call. And so when the call is made, do the people around you get on the same page? And in front of the other people that you're leading, do they move forward with that vision and with that purpose? And if you're that person, and if you are in a scenario where you have a leader and you're going, look, I respectfully disagree. Here's some options. Here's some ideas. Here's what we think should happen. But if that leader says, okay, I hear you, I understand, but here's what we're doing, you've got to get on the same page. And then we've got to move forward. And then in front of other, vocally, our idea, it didn't even mix. And when they end up being wrong, we don't go back and go, I told you so. I told you so. We can't do that either. If a leader is asking you to do something that is morally objectable, that's where you have to have a side conversation and go, you have to really evaluate, can I proceed within this organization or under this leader? But ultimately, if it's not a moral thing and not where you've created your own truth that isn't truth, but if it's not a moral thing, right? You should probably get on board and see what this moment might teach you. They might know something that you didn't. But they can also come back, and these leaders, these individuals that did it maybe their way, and you got on board, then you build equity. Right. And they might come to you next time and go, okay, your idea last time, we should have tried that, let's try it this time. You understand? So first thing is honor doesn't mean agreement, it does mean alignment. Here's the second thing. Honor is in your mouth and it's on your body. So scripturally, we could go to Matthew chapter 5 for this, but we won't right now. But ultimately, honor can't just be on your body and it can't just be in your mouth. It's got to be both. So your body language sometimes will speak louder than your words do. You could say, oh yeah, I'm with you, but have an attitude, be on your phone, not look at somebody in the face. Okay, you could be, even an example, you could be in a meeting and you could be on your phone, you could be on iMessage, you could be doing something else, you could not be there, right? And then be like, oh yeah. But if you are somewhere else when some leader needs you to be there, that's dishonoring. Yeah. So honor, it's in your mouth and it's on your body. You understand that? Yeah. Okay, in your mouth, on your body. Here's number 3. Honor asks for permission. Honor asks for permission. Here's what I mean by this. A lot of times, I'll have young leaders tell me what they're going to do, and think that they just ask permission. That's not honor. That is not understanding authority. So I'll give a couple different examples. I'll give the example of someone is in our ministry and they want to go do a speaking engagement, or they want to go take a ministry engagement. Okay, well, we celebrate that and we would want that, but what we would want is for them to come and say, hey, I have this opportunity. Right. Is this affecting anybody else? Can I go and do this? You're my leader. I submit this to you. Is this good for me to go do? And then we would go, hey, we're looking at the schedule. This feels good. This is not going to affect other people. Go, we bless this. Go and do it. But a lot of times what happens, especially with young leaders, is they'll go, hey, just letting you know, this has come up. I'm doing this. Well, no, that's incredibly dishonoring and dysfunctional, and a sign that you don't understand leadership and authority, which means your authority will be short-lived. So that's one example. Another example, this happens all the time, is someone will submit a vacation or time off request, but have already purchased their tickets home, or has already purchased or made plans for their event. That's incredibly dishonoring, and it's not how an organization functions. You get ahead of it, you plan, right? Or if something special has come up and it's last minute, right? You push to have that conversation or that meeting. Does everybody understand that? Yeah. But you don't just go make the move, buy something, and come up later and tell somebody. Honor asks for permission. It's submitting your will. It's submitting your hopes to other people who you trust. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Yeah. And that's a really hard thing. And in our day and age and in our culture, don't tell me how to live. Don't tell me where to go. I'm not. What we're doing is we're honoring. Mm-hmm. And the more that we honor, the more freedom that you get. It's same with, if you have children, it's the same with, or you remember this in childhood, the more honorable you are to your parents, the more freedom you get from your parents in a normal, healthy environment. So what I'm saying is good leaders and an honorable culture won't just decide and tell. They'll ask for permission and then act. Okay? Number 4, honor thinks through optics. What does this look like? What does this look like for you? What does this look like for me? Now, in a church context, okay, maybe someone be going, I'm going on vacation, right? And I'm taking my boyfriend home to meet my family, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe you've been dating for a long time. Maybe this is the trip that you get engaged, whatever it is, right? But to not communicate those things or not be careful about how you might post this on social media, the optics are bad, and you're putting your leadership or your team in potentially a bad situation that they have to explain your actions. Are they staying together? Are they staying in the same room? So you want to be careful as to how you present yourself. Yeah. Now, there's a whole lot more to that I don't necessarily want to get into right now, but I'm just trying to give you an example of optics. We have a social media policy here in our organization. So if you're a leader, it's optics. We don't want to go around posting that I'm, drinking a bunch of liquor or doing something like this, because while you might be able to handle that, somebody might see that and go, oh, is this their 4th or their 5th? They're laughing. Oh, I feel like on social media, their eyes are a little bloodshot. Maybe they're drunk. And it could have been a half a sip that you took, but it's optics. And why that's important for honor is because then your leaders don't have to explain that situation away. So what we're doing is we're choosing the mission of the organization over our own preferences, so we're careful about our presentation because optics matter. Yeah. And that's hard for a lot of people to accept, but if you want to be in a thriving organization where culture and mission are the first place, then you'll sacrifice even the way that certain things look, or you'll be more careful about it and more communicative about it so that it does not have to be explained away all the time. Because the thing is if you're a leader or if you're under leadership, people will always take what you do and they'll do it at a higher level. Mm-hmm. So we might say that they would do that in excess. So people will take the permission that you didn't even give them based on what you show them. You hear what I'm saying? Yeah. You didn't even give them permission, but you did because you showed them something that they could take because they might be looking for an excuse or a reason to live out further. Now, there are some sort of things that we just can't, you just can't live afraid or walking on eggshells. But ultimately, optics matter. Another example is Grace, who's on our staff, first staff member, another woman on our staff. I can't tell you how many times people will be like, are you Pastor Joey's wife? Or, they'll think that, you name it, right? I mean, they just get confused because Lauren's at another location or Grace is speaking and it just, for whatever reason. And Grace is so careful and over the top in honoring my wife, and making it clear that distinction doesn't exist, right? And is always, I mean, she and her and my wife are best friends, and she's over the top on communication and over the top on clarity within our church, especially as some of those things may have gotten confused. What is that? Optics matter, and so she's over the top in honor because she's guarding the organization and the culture that we're trying to create. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right, so number 5, honor is considerate and it's collaborative. Honor is considerate and it's collaborative. In our organization, if you are going away, you are always connecting and communicating to those closest to you. First of all, your direct report and those affected by it. And a lot of times what happens, because we're fostering this culture, is someone's going, hey, I'm thinking about going away on this time of the year, and I know that might affect you. How do you feel about this? Could we work this out? Because there's a great desire to work together, because that culture is being fostered. Honor is always collaborative, and it's always considerate. So I'm considering you even in the things that I want to do. Now, you can't make everybody happy all the time. You can't please everybody all the time, but you can put your best foot forward and attempt to be considerate and honoring and collaborative with other people that you work with. All right, number 6, honor comes from your heart, not your head. Honor comes from your heart, not your head. What do I mean by that? There are going to be a lot of times and moments where you don't feel like honoring and it doesn't make sense to honor. But if you don't get honor deep down in your soul, in your spirit, in your heart, if you don't get the mission of what you're trying to accomplish in your heart, what will come out of your head to your mouth will absolutely be reflective of what's going on in here. And so when I say it comes from your head, from your heart, not your head, is because our mind feels and thinks a lot of things. So if we don't get honor deep down in here, it's never going to come out here, and it's never going to come out in our body. So the first place that we've got to get honor and get this belief system about honor and about our mission is right here in our heart, because there's going to be many times we don't feel like honoring. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's going to be many times that it doesn't make sense to us why we should do this, but we do it anyway. Mm-hmm. We forgive anyway. We give opportunity anyway. We keep our mouths shut anyway. We hold our tongue anyway. We guard our body language anyway. We apologize anyway. I think one of the best things that can happen in organizations and with teams is to apologize. An I'm sorry and an apology, when it's not enabling, is actually honoring. Because you're going to, in any organization or on any team, you're going to hurt each other and fail each other at some point. And so the way that we honor each other by apologies, it doesn't make sense in our head, but it's coming from our heart and it unifies us. Make sense? Yeah. Okay. Number 7, honor embraces authority. Honor embraces authority. People of honor understand there is no authority without being under authority. So people of honor are looking for authority structures, not ways to be autonomous and lone rangers. People of honor, people who have honor in their heart, people who succeed, people who go far, people who rise in organizations, they're looking for structures. They are looking for places to be submitted to and to have honor to. They're not looking to be lone rangers. They've got to get people in their life because they understand that with authority comes authority. In my life, when this church was forming, when our church was forming, I knew I needed to get a pastor in my life. I knew that every pastor needed a pastor. Every CEO or leader needs someone who's further along than they are. So I went and pursued somebody. I met this guy, and I mean, 2 years. Took 2 years for him to acknowledge and say that he would embrace me in his life. And I just annoyed him for 2 years. But I wanted what he had, and I knew I needed a pastor, and he was the best person that I could find. And so I just kept reaching out. Hey, when can we connect? Can I take you to coffee? Can I be your friend? Can I do anything for you? You know, and he was standoffish because he wanted to see, I think, if I would be consistent, if I was worth his time. But I knew that if I wanted to lead all these people, and I wanted to get where I felt like God was calling me or the mission was leading me, then I needed to have somebody who was further along than me and somebody that I could be submitted to, because I knew that there would be mistakes that I would make or potential pitfalls that I would go into, that if I didn't have somebody saying, hey, watch out, or here's what to do when you get there, then we would get stuck. And so much of the growth and the success of our organization, I believe, has to do with the simple fact that we have a covering over us, and that, to be honest with you, even me, who makes a lot of decisions in this organization, at the end of the day, somebody else still makes decisions for me and helps me make decisions. And I'm submitted to them, and I understand that more authority will be given to me the more I submit to them. So, I mean, there has been instances where he said to me, no, don't do that, or you shouldn't do that, or I recommend not doing that. And he's even left the ball in my court to make the decision, but I knew where he stood on it, and I knew where his preference was. And so I did what he suggested and recommended anyway, because it wasn't morally objective, and I wanted to show him that I was submitted to his recommendations. And it's gone well for me. And this person, this individual, they have funded and have resourced us in ways you could never believe, not just me, but also my family. Why? Because I honored and I sought out this authority. And our influence and our authority has increased because we've been under their authority. I remember one time specifically with him is I did something wrong. I didn't think it was wrong. Okay, this is probably going back to point number one. But I did something wrong in his eyes. I felt like I communicated it. I probably actually did communicate it clearly. And he didn't like how it went down. And he basically just spanked me. And I had 15 different responses, but I just bit my cheeks, you know, these cheeks. And I just stayed quiet. And I just apologized. And I've got tough enough skin, and I'm man enough to just go, okay, if I missed it. And then essentially he gave me what I needed and what I asked for after I just stayed quiet. Because the situation was I asked his organization for a huge amount of money. And I invited them here, and we brought them here, and we wanted to make this pitch to fundraise. And we also had a trip scheduled for that same day. So I said, hey, we're going to meet in the morning, and then I'll leave in the afternoon, and then another portion of the team will take you for the rest of the evening. Well, I felt like I got that approval from him, and I felt like it was clear. But after the fact, several weeks later, when I was going to get the answer of whether they were going to give us the resources or not, he was like, don't you ever bring anybody in and ask them for this amount of money and make this kind of fundraising pitch and then leave in the middle of the day. What is wrong with you? And I was like, and I'm thinking, I thought I made it clear. But it just wasn't worth the fight. Like, he loves me. I trust him. I know he cares for me. He was instructing me and correcting me based on the fact that he didn't want me to make that same mistake in the future. And then he said, and by the way, we're going to give you exactly what you asked for and more. That's how honor works. Number 8, honor is fostered and it's contagious. What does that mean? It means that if you're in a culture of honor, you're guarding that. When you see someone who is not aligned to that and not honoring, you help shut them up. You correct the body language. That's not what we do here. Also, it can be fostered by self-correction, by communication. In every organization, you've got to foster this culture of honor. We're reading books about it. We're talking about it. We're overextending ourselves. I don't want this to ever happen. Okay, I don't want this to happen in our organization. And in some places this happens, that's fine. But we always joke in our staff. There are other organizations or churches that, when the pastor walks in the room, they all stand up. And we that's not us. Okay, but we've been joking about it a lot lately. So every time I walk in the room, 2 of our staff members stand up and just clap sarcastically because we're joking. But at the same time, we've been having this discussion about honor and how do we foster that as we keep growing. And we laugh about it, we have fun about it. But then even in our communication, even in our disagreements, and even in our, we're trying to be more encouraging, but even in our correction, am I honoring in my correction? Am I just ripping you apart because it's easy to and because I can? Or am I doing this to add constructive measures to your life? And when we correct people with construction, we're actually honoring them. Of course, it takes relationship to do that. All right, number 9, honor is critical for increased trust. It's critical for increased trust. When there's a bad culture, there's no trust. But if you want to rise in the organization, you will engage trust. So honor is critical for increased trust. So if you honor your leader, if you honor the people around you, even when they make the wrong decisions, going back to the beginning, yet you honored them, there is going to be increased trust, which is going to increase your opportunities. The best way that you can honor the people that you lead is to solve problems that they have, is to not create additional issues for them. Solve the problems, and then more trust is released. The more trust that's released, the higher you go and the more opportunities you have. Honor is absolutely critical for increased trust. Everything in an organization is built around trust and production. But you can produce and not be honorable, and it mean nothing. So you've got to build trust. And it helps, certainly, as you're producing, that definitely is helping with the trust factor. But you can produce and produce the wrong way, or produce in a dishonoring way, or produce with bad body language or bad mouth language, right? And that literally mean nothing. There are a lot of people who've got a lot of skill and a lot of talent that never rise up where they need to go in organizations or in life because they don't understand honor and they can't be trusted. So for me, I'd take somebody who's got a little bit less skill, who's got a little bit less experience, but carries a culture of honor towards me and towards the people they work with, and I'll take a little bit longer to get it done because honor is there. Because you can't sustain production if there is no honor. Someone can produce quickly, but then burn those bridges. Lastly, number 10, honor leads to extraordinary blessing. Honor is a seed you don't see immediately. Honor is a seed. I really believe that I'm reaping today what I sowed many years ago. I really believe that. There were seeds that I sowed 15 years ago that I'm just seeing harvest now. There were some things I didn't know. I was building fences for my pastor. I was I was fixing cars. I didn't know what I was doing. I was pouring soda on car. There was a reason for it, okay? I'm just saying. I was doing stuff that I'm seeing those exact things take place now in my life. Now, I wasn't perfect, and I haven't always been perfect by any means, but there were some areas where I just overextended myself to honor, and I feel and sense that today that's happening in my life. I'll tell you one story, and then we'll wrap it up and we'll review. There was, when we first moved to Philadelphia, there was a pastor, a church that we were attending. And we were attending this church because we wanted to get the lay of the land. And we were there serving, and we came to plant. They knew that. They were going to support that. But they said, hey, we don't want you to plant in this particular area. And so I agreed to that when we first came and first showed up. They said, don't start your first church there, because he knew we wanted to do multi-site, but if you want to start another one after that, then fine. Well, at first when he said that, I'm like, cool, the city's so big, it's so large, no thing at all. But the further we went and the more it felt impossible to find a location and a venue, I was getting really stressed out, and the only places, and it seemed like there were 4 or 5 places. The only places that were open to us were in the area, which I thought, by the way, was absurd. It was a large area that they were in that he said no to. And so I was frustrated because I was stressed. I was frustrated because I thought it was absurd and it was ridiculous, because there were so many people and so much space in that area. But he asked, and I agreed, and so I had a choice. What was I going to do? And I just felt like when I was walking around one day and I was praying and I had to release back the only places that were open to us, I felt like the Lord was like, if you honor this man, I will bless you. And I just let that sit right here. And it was hard because, you're stressed, you're up against the gun. How is this going to happen? But I just had that, I'm going to reap that. I'm going to reap it one way or another. So this is a seed. I'm either going to sow a bad seed or I'm going to sow a good seed. And sure enough, in the last minute, in the nick of time, we ended up where we ended up. And then our second location, we planted right where we wanted to be in the first place. With permission and with God's complete welcoming. And I remember as we were walking around the second location, I felt like the Lord said, I know you forgot about this, but I didn't. I'm going to bless you. And here we are, running out of space, needing to multiply in that same place.
That's good.
Honor, it leads to extraordinary blessing. And for some reason, I feel like we've missed it or lost it in this culture that frankly is entitled and wants it all now. But honor is a seed, and it takes time for it to harvest. So let's recap, and then we'll be done. Here we go. Keys to honor. Number 1, honor doesn't mean agreement. It does mean alignment. Number 2, honor is in your mouth and on your body. Number 3, honor asks for permission. Number 4, honor thinks through optics. Number 5, honor is considerate and collaborative. Number 6, honor comes from your heart, not your head. Number 7, honor embraces authority. Number 8, honor is fostered and contagious. Number 9, honor is critical for increased trust. And number 10, honor leads to extraordinary blessing.